It says, and he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of the water, that bringeth forth its fruit in him. His leaf shall not also wither, and whatsoever he does, it shall prosper. May God add a blessing to the reading and hearing of his holy word.
All the elected officials who are here and to our brothers and sisters, it's an honor to be asked to participate in this program. I'll try to give some of this time back, but it's always dangerous when you don't have a prepared script in front of you. You can run on ad infinitum. Several thoughts go through my mind before I get right to it. We're here to honor and dedicate a tree. Historically, people have used nature for capital punishment. In the Navy, they made people walk the plank. I wondered why it was during biblical times people were stoned to death. Then when I went to Israel, I saw so many stones. I'll never forget when I was in the Army and got off the train in a place called Crestview, Florida. This is in early 1946. We didn't see any black folks, and one of the fellows walked over to an older white man and asked him, where did the colored folks hang out? And he pointed to a tree. So a tree has not always been our friend. But here we are today to honor and recognize the fact that God made trees and only God can make a tree. And we shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water. And let me say this about George Washington Bush, and I'll say a few words about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. A few years ago, I was asked to speak to a group one evening. What's the county just north of Snohomish? Skagit, yes. I had to speak to a group up there, and I guess it had a happy hour before I got there. And one fellow had a little bit too much to drink. He said, I hope in your speech you'll give us some idea of what black folks have contributed to the state of Washington. I said, if you would shut up and sit down and fasten your seatbelt, I promise you when I get through, you will be sober. But had it not been for a black man, George Washington Bush, the state of Washington, from what I understand of our history, would have been part of British Columbia. You can check that out to see how real it is, but we thank God for George Washington Bush, who, as far as I know, had no connection to recent occupants of the White House, and whose son was in the last territorial legislature and in the first state legislature. This is what I've read about him. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. certainly has left his mark on humanity, not only in this country, but around the world. It was my privilege to know him or meet him when we were both children. His father was a Baptist minister, my father was a Baptist minister. We were carried to church conventions, and both of us were looking for some escape from the assembly of hot air. And then when I entered college, 65 years ago, 1944, Dr. King and I were in the same freshman class at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. We recognized each other and became friends. He was 15 years old. I'm not taking anything away from him, but the reason he was in school at age 15 in college was World War II was on, and in the state of Georgia, a law had been passed that if you took a test in the 11th grade and passed it, you could bypass the 12th grade and go right into college as a freshman. This he did. Had he lived, he would have been 80 years old.
In the spirit of National Arbor Day, we gladly and proudly dedicate this tree, the butternut tree sapling, in memory and in the spirit of two great African American men, George Bush and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We dedicate. All right. Thank you.
This has been such a wonderful day. We want to thank Mrs. Olson for that history for George W. Bush. We thank you. We'd like to also thank those historical society members who are here today. If you would raise your hands so we would be able to recognize you. Thank you. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling seas. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has taught us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.